Auburn now coming off 2 straight wins, but the stakes get even higher as they travel to Athens, Georgia for the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Seth Emerson joins us now from The Athletic to discuss this matchup. And Seth, we'll start with Georgia's matchup against Kentucky. You've watched them all season long. They clinched the SEC East, now heading to Atlanta to face Alabama in the SEC championship game. But in this football game particularly, when you watch this Georgia team, what is it they do well, and what do you think they need to improve on that they can work on in this football game to get better?
Well, Georgia did everything well, except one minor thing, which was goal line at Kentucky. Georgia's biggest problem entering that game had been run defense, and it was the biggest reason that I and a lot of people thought that that game was going to be pretty dicey for Georgia because of Kentucky's offense and Benny Snell. Georgia did great against it. They did great against the pass. They did great running the ball. They did great passing the ball. They did great on special teams. And that's what Georgia's formula has been, a lot like Alabama, but with the run defense being a problem. So Georgia being able to do everything well against Kentucky, especially the run defense, was huge for them. What can they still do to get better? Number one, continue to do well with the run defense, because does one game show that you've solved it, that you're great at it now, no worries, move along, nothing to see here? No, it doesn't. Goal line, they were stuffed at the goal line against Kentucky, and that was a week after they had seven plays from the 1 yard line against Florida and failed to get in. Some of that was a lot of just lack of imagination in play calling, and I think they'll solve that. Some of that was communication. Some of that was maybe they should use Justin Fields more, and Justin Fields is the backup quarterback, and when you talk about what do they need to do to improve as a team, I think that's taking the next step on offense, is how much they can incorporate Justin Fields to be that added dimension, the guy that can come in and give the team a running dimension in certain packages and certain situations, but also can pass the ball. I think that's something that'll be fascinating to watch against Auburn and the final 3 games as they head into the SEC championship and try to take this team to a different level to where it can compete with Alabama realistically.
So we know this is a big rivalry matchup between these two teams. Auburn hasn't won between the hedges since 2005. What are you hearing from the coaches and players in terms of how they're approaching this rivalry, especially Georgia beating up on Auburn in the SEC championship game last year, but a few weeks before that, the Tigers taking the win?
You know, it's interesting. The Auburn game, Deep South's oldest rivalry, the overlap in recruiting for so many of these guys who were recruited by both schools, some who changed from Auburn to Georgia and vice versa. They all seem to know each other. It's almost like because of the last 3 weeks and this being the tail end of this 4-game stretch that everybody knew would be critical in deciding how the regular season went, that for the first time in a long time, the Auburn game's a little bit of, I don't know if it's an afterthought is the right word, but it doesn't have the same juice that it usually has. I've covered Auburn-Georgia a lot, and it's always been a game that people have pointed at. And I don't know if that's dangerous for Georgia, that so much emotionally was spent with LSU and then a bye week coming off a loss, and then Florida, which is obviously another big rival, and then Kentucky, which was the SEC East Championship, and now they know they're in the SEC Championship game. You do get the feeling that a Auburn team that plays really well has a chance to surprise here. On the other hand, Georgia's got a home game. Auburn just does not win here. And there'll be juice in the building. Georgia's first home game since before LSU, more than a month since they played at home, and a night game, which always does it. So I think that in terms of how Georgia and players and coaches are approaching this, I think you'll hear quotes, you'll see people talking about how fired up they are, you know, how much they always hate Auburn, blah, blah, blah. It almost seems perfunctory, to be honest. Like I said, the juice is missing right now because it's been so much was put into the previous games, but I think Georgia can probably make up for that emotionally with the home crowd on Saturday night.
All right, final question for you. Give us one key matchup that you're looking for between Auburn and Georgia.
Auburn's run defense against Georgia's front 7. There will be a temptation to say that Georgia's run defense in the front 7 is not as big an issue anymore because of how they did against Kentucky, and it may bear out that way. But if Auburn is able to make those concerns return and speed up play like they did against Texas A&M in the 4th quarter, and just get Auburn off balance the way, or Georgia's defense off balance the way it was at LSU. It opens things up for Jarrett Stidham, and the more that Auburn is on the field, the more plays Gus Malzahn, Chip Lindsey are able to run. Just the more that Georgia's offense is on the sideline having to think about things, the better, obviously, I think that is for Auburn. And so that gets back to the running game. Auburn's ability or inability to run the ball will be key, because it will decide how long this is a game and continue to give Auburn some hope the longer it's in the game.
All right, thanks so much. He's Seth Emerson with The Athletic. We appreciate the insight, and for all your Auburn Tiger updates, you can visit us on AL.com.
This video was brought to you by Caliber, a luxury store in Homewood, Alabama that's reviving the finer things in hunting and fishing.